Hello everyone and welcome to this exemplary episode of HG Elementary. I'm Alex and I'll be your host this week.
Oh, I can't believe this.
Oh, hey Josh, what brings you to our show today?
Oh, sorry, you're with our friends. Hey guys, didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay, you seem upset.
Well, I am, you see. So, I received a call from the king of Examplevania, and he wanted to visit me at my home, which is amazing. I was so excited that I really didn't hear the details, so as soon as I got off the phone, I decided to get some groceries so I can make a wonderful meal for the king.
That sounds like a good plan.
Well, I thought so, but then when I got back home, there's this guy just cleaning my house.
Did you hire a cleaner?
No, but he just said that he was there for the king, so I let him clean and even started to help him to prep the meal.
That's wonderful the king sent help. I mean, that must have been a relief.
Well, that's what I thought, but then it came time for the meal to be served, and something strange happened.
What?
Well, the cleaning guy got up and sat down in the king's spot at the table. He then started to serve me food. Can you believe the nerve of this guy?
That is a bit strange.
So, I tried to coax him out the door before the king arrived, and he simply said, "I am the king."
What? No way.
Yeah, and I did a quick Google search and found a picture of the king, and sure enough, this was him.
What happened next?
Well, I apologized a lot. I felt so bad. And then I tried to serve him, but he said that he'd leave if I did that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was so weird. So I just let him serve me. And then we had a nice dinner and a great conversation, and then he helped to clean up the kitchen, but he wouldn't let me help. And then he left and he thanked me for a wonderful dinner.
Sounds like it ended well, so what are you so upset about?
Well, a reporter heard about how I hosted the king, and word was that he really thought that I did a great job. Now this lady wants to write an article about what I did to prepare the meal that I served, and now everyone would know that I didn't serve the king, but that he served me.
Yeah, I can see how that would rattle you. I think today's Bible story will help you find a solution. Are you willing to help with the story?
Do you think it'll really help?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm in.
Excellent.
Let me guess, our story takes place at the end of the time when Jesus was teaching people about God's love and how to live his way?
That's correct, yeah. Jesus had just arrived in the city of Jerusalem, and not long after all that, however, things took a very different turn. It all started when Jesus and his disciples gathered to celebrate the Passover feast.
Ooh, I know this one. Passover is when the Jewish people celebrate and remember how God freed them from slavery way back in the days of Moses and how he had been with them ever since.
Every year, the Jewish people gather with their family and friends to eat together and remember all God has done. This Passover, however, would be different than any other for Jesus and his disciples.
Now let's begin the story that we call the ultimate example.
Jesus told Simon, Peter, and John to go and get things ready for the Passover feast. He told them that when they got into the city, they'd see a man carrying a water jar. They were to follow the man, and when they saw him go inside a house, they were to tell the owner of the house that Jesus was coming to celebrate the Passover there and to get things ready.
I'm sure Peter and John were a little confused by all that and wondered how Jesus knew. But as they got into town, they found a man carrying a water jar just like Jesus had said.
They did as Jesus had told them, and they found the owner of the house, who was more than happy to have Jesus and the disciples come celebrate the Passover feast in his home. In fact, he had a room upstairs already set up for them.
When the time came, Jesus and the other disciples arrived and took their seats around the table and began eating and drinking.
As the meal progressed, Jesus got up and took off his outer robe and, taking a towel, wrapped it around his waist.
The disciples watched in confusion and shock as he reached over and, pouring water into a basin, went to each of them and washed their feet.
In those days, most people walked everywhere, as camels and horses were very expensive. So having walked all day in and around Jerusalem, the disciples' feet would have been very dirty and dusty.
And probably pretty smelly. Ugh. And yet Jesus, their teacher, and the very Son of God, got down on his hands and knees before them and took each of their dirty feet and washed them with love and care. Then he dried them with a towel wrapped around him.
Think about that. Jesus, the Son of God, who helped create the world and knows you better than you even know yourself, takes off your shoes and socks so he can wash your feet. Not because he has to, but because he wants to.
Huh? Why?
Because he loves you so much that he wants to show you his love by taking on the role of a servant and serving you. The God of the universe wants to serve you. No wonder most of the disciples couldn't say a word out of sheer amazement. They just sat there shocked at what was happening.
I bet they were. Simon Peter, however, wasn't about to let Jesus wash his feet, and when it came to his turn, he asked,
Lord, are you going to wash my feet?
He knew Jesus is the Messiah and the one sent by God to save us, and he didn't think it right that Jesus should wash his gross, dirty feet. But what he didn't realize is that Jesus wanted to do it. Jesus responded,
You don't realize what I am doing, but later you will understand.
Peter protested,
No, you will never wash my feet.
Unless I wash you, you can have no part with me.
Then, Lord, not just my feet, but my hands and head also.
He didn't like the idea of Jesus washing his feet, but he liked the idea of not getting to be a part of what Jesus was doing even less. So he let Jesus do it.
When Jesus had finished washing their feet, he put on his outer garment and returned to the table. Then he said,
Do you understand what I have done for you? I have set you an example that you should do the same. No servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him.
The disciples continued to wonder at Jesus' example of washing their feet through the rest of the meal that evening. Then Jesus spoke.
You will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.
Jesus, the Good Shepherd, knew he would soon be arrested, and sadly, he knew none of the disciples would stand by his side. They would all run away, fearing for their own lives. He looked to Simon Peter and said,
Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat, to test you and try to make you turn away from me. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers.
He was encouraging Peter that, although bad things were about to happen and Simon Peter would make some unwise choices, it wasn't the end. He knew Simon Peter could be a leader for the other disciples after Jesus was gone. But Simon Peter didn't understand what Jesus was saying and boldly declared,
Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death. Even if all the others leave you, I will not.
Jesus' expression turned very sad at this, and he said,
I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you know me.
But Simon Peter continued to insist he would never do such a thing, and the other disciples said they too would never desert Jesus. But he knew they would, and still he continued to love them. Jesus then began to pray, and his disciples listened. They listened as he prayed that God would be glorified and honored in what Jesus was about to do on the cross.
They listened as he prayed for his disciples, asking God to bring them together in unity and love and protect them so they would continue to follow him together and love one another as they began the work that he had for them.
They listened as Jesus began to pray for all the people who would choose to follow him, and that includes you and me. Think about it. That night over 2,000 years ago, Jesus prayed for you.
Wowee! I'm amazed that Jesus, who the Bible calls the King of Kings, was willing to wash the nasty feet of the disciples, and he did it knowing that all of them would later abandon him in his greatest time of need. He did it all without a second thought.
I agree. Now let me ask you, what kinds of things did you notice in our story that showed Jesus being an example to his disciples?
That evening Jesus had with his disciples, he made the most of it. He took every opportunity to love on them, to serve them, to teach them, to prepare them for the dangerous and dark road ahead, and to pray for them. He was an amazing example for them, as he always had been.
With all that Jesus taught them and said that night, they knew Jesus is our example in every part of life, and they would choose for the rest of their lives to try to live like him each day.
Well, did they mess up sometimes?
Oh, you bet. But they didn't give up when they made a mistake. They asked for God's forgiveness and then got right back to trying to follow his example again. It's easy to look at the life of Jesus and say, wow, that Jesus guy was great. He was super smart, was really kind and generous, and he taught some helpful things for us to remember. But it's a whole other thing to realize Jesus is our example and choose to live like him.
Wait, I think I see where this is going. So, just like Jesus is our example, the king of Examplevania was being a good example of a loving leader and guest in my home.
Exactly. The king of Examplevania is not just talking about how he wants his people to live, but showing them how to live like his example. to be followers.
Followers, like, you mean follow the leader?
Yeah. Jesus called his people to be his followers. People who look at Jesus and say, what a great guy, I want my life to look like his, and then actually try their best to do it. Jesus is our example only if we choose to follow him. We must live it out each day by choosing to follow his example.
Huh. Well, that's a lot to take in. Maybe we should take a little break and have Ruth share this week's Bible verse.
Great idea. And let's also see if our friends can figure out this week's main point in time.
You are the children that God really loves, so follow his example. Who are you? You are the children that God really loves, so follow his example. You are the children, you are the children that God really loves, so follow his example. You are the children, you are the children that God really loves, so follow his example.
Welcome to the Main Point Challenge, 4 Corners Edition, where you choose a word by going to the corner with the number matching the word you think is correct before time runs out. Now stand up and walk like this character. You can do it. Which of these 4 words goes in the blue blank? Mom, Taylor Swift, Jesus, or history? Hurry and choose a corner.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Number 3 is the winner. Jesus is the correct answer. Which of these 4 words goes in the blue blank? Are, there, gods, or an? Hurry and choose a corner.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Number 1 is the winner. R is the correct answer. Which of these 4 words goes in the blue blank? Right, example, past, or Jedi? Hurry and choose a corner.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Number 2 is the winner. Example is the correct answer. Jesus is our example. First-rater imitators. Excellent example of energy. Now it's time to waddle back to your seat.
Easy peasy. Way to go, friends. You really know your stuff. Now, following Jesus' example, that seems like a lot to live up to.
If Jesus is our example, our lives should be filled with acts of love and service like his was, and our prayers should be on behalf of others and seeking to know more about God and how we can serve him each day.
But will we, like the disciples, mess up sometimes?
Yeah, we'll choose to do things our own way sometimes rather than his. Jesus, after all, is the only perfect person to have ever walked the earth. But he's ready and willing to forgive us when we admit our mistakes and ask for his help to make better choices.
Ooh, well that is really good to know. Oh, hold on a second. Hello? Oh, yeah, the King of Examplevania came to my house for dinner. Uh-huh. Yep, he came and he was such a great example of a leader who follows Jesus' example of serving others. And he helped with the meal and the cleanup. The people of Examplevania are fortunate to have a king like that. Uh-huh. Yep, that'd be great. See you later. Sorry about that.
I'm guessing that was the reporter.
Yeah. So after our Bible story, I'm realizing how the King of Examplevania and Jesus both are helping me grow and to be more like their examples.
You know, it's great when others, like the King of Examplevania, can help us see how we can grow into being the kind of people we were meant to be. And no one is a better example of or role model for us than Jesus. In fact, he's the ultimate example for us of what it looks like to be a God follower and to love others.
This week, as we get ready to celebrate Easter, it seems like a good time to ask God to show each of us how He would have us follow Him, rather than just admire Him.
Josh, I'm glad you interrupted our episode today and shared your story. I think you really made some great progress and helped all of us as well.
You think so? Well, I really appreciate hearing that, and thank you for telling this wonderful story of Jesus' last meal.
You're welcome. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today and invite you back for another great episode next week. In the meantime, remember, Jesus is our example.
Keep being heroic
By following
Jesus' way.